Ahoy, mateys. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. In a previous podcast, I had talked about my experience on the Margaritaville at Sea cruise line, in particular the Islander ship. And on that episode, I discussed my experience on the ship itself. But the two stops that we went to, I didn't discuss. I saved that for a future podcast episode, and that's what this episode is going to be today. So it'll be my experience going to Key West, Florida, as well as Cozumel, Mexico. Somewhere that I had been before and even had talked about in a previous podcast. I'll touch on it a little bit on this one here today. Let's begin with Key West, Florida. It's kind of interesting to think that you leave Florida, Tampa, and then go to another stop in Florida, Key West. That was part of the itinerary, and that was something I actually looked forward to going on. I had been to Key West once before, many years ago on a cruise. I believe I was like in my early 20s when I went on that cruise. I was with my parents. And when we were in Key West, I remember we all rented these like little Vespas, little motorized type of, not motorcycles. Vespas I think are more like mopeds. Anyways, we all rented them, and we went around the city, riding these things and seeing different things. I don't remember a lot of details because this is going back almost 20 years when I went there the first time. I just remembered that we rented those. It was nice. We had fun. We really enjoyed that stop. I kind of did look for that though, as a possible thing to do, coming around again. I didn't really see it as an option um, anywhere that I looked. So cruise lines usually offer different excursions that you can take advantage of and do, and then there's outside sources too that you can do excursions with. And I just didn't really see it anywhere, so I didn't book that. While we were in Key West, though, walking around later on, I did see some people riding them. So I guess they're out there somewhere. I just didn't come across it. That's okay. I still was able to book an excursion through Margaritaville at Sea, and we took a tour on a glass bottom boat, which I'm going to get into here in a little bit. Um, Anyways, the day that we set sail for Key West, or the day that we got there, we set sail for Key West on Sunday as soon as we left Tampa. And Monday, the very next day, is when we hit Key West. But we didn't get there at the beginning of the day and stayed all day. We actually got there in the afternoon, early afternoon. That was something a little bit unique, I guess you could say. And we weren't there the entire day. We were just there half the day, which is fine. We got in the afternoon, and me and Selena left. And the first thing that we had to do, so we were part of, we had bought an excursion. So the people who bought an excursion were part of the first people that actually could leave off the ship because they had to get to their excursions on time. So we were one of the first ones that got to leave the ship. And immediately as we got out, they had booths there set up for the different excursions. We found ours. And in doing so, they had you scan like a QR code on your phone, and it would pop up like a waiver that you had to digitally sign. I was having trouble getting on it. I think maybe it was still, my phone was still either connecting to the Wi-Fi in the ship, which was making it weaker, or whatever was going on. For whatever reason, I couldn't pull up on my phone. But they had tablets there that if you couldn't get it on your own device, they had their device that you could get it on. And you just scroll through, sign all of it, do your waiver, and move forward. After we did our waiver, we went over to another person who was associated with them and kind of checked in with them, and they gave us actual physical tickets that we would go there to the company and give them the tickets, and then we could get on the ship. So cool, that was good. We got all that taken care of right away, and it wasn't there, and there wasn't a shuttle service over there, so we had to actually walk. Not that it was super far, but we had to actually walk. We went down the pier, made a left, kind of walked through town a little bit, I guess you could say. So we walked by some stores, some ice cream shops. Had to cross the street a few times, kept going down a little ways. Eventually, we made our way through town and found where they were at. The ship wasn't there yet. The boat wasn't there that we were going to take. They had, I think, only three sailings every day. One at like noon, one at 2, and one at 6. And whether or not that's every single day, I'm not entirely sure. But the one that we went on that day, that Monday, they had three different sailings. The company was called Fury, 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 and very, very nice time that we had on it. I am going to discuss it a little bit, but just as a heads up, we had a very good time on this. Had a very nice thing. If that's something that interests you, think you might want to go do one day, obviously let me know. Reach out to me, j.paradise@gmail.com, or you can reach me on Facebook or Instagram, Jay's Paradise Travels. No apostrophe in that. So we had to wait for a little bit, and very, very warm and muggy. We're talking Florida in the summertime, very warm and muggy. There was some stores there that we decided to go inside, maybe cool off a little bit. Figured they had the AC running. We felt the fan blowing on us as we walked in, but once we got in, I guess they were having some AC problems. Felt very bad for those that had to be working there all day long. We went in there and cooled off for a minute or two, but it really wasn't. It was out of the sun, so I guess that helped, but it wasn't like really cooling us off. So Selena stayed in there for a little bit longer. I decided to come back out, and I guess you could say stand in line. We already had tickets, so we were good to go. There were some people that walked up, bought tickets. So if you don't necessarily get it from an excursion through the cruise line, you can walk up and purchase tickets that way too. That's fine. We already had a ticket, so we were fine. So I just figured stand there, wait for it to come. And eventually it did, and we were one of the first ones on. And I really liked that. I felt like for what we paid for it, you really got the most bang for our buck. I was searching different excursions to look through, and some things were a little bit more expensive and they weren't as long, or some of it was like you take maybe a trolley, which I think they do have, and that's fine if you take it. I'm sure it's historic in its own little way. It would take you around town, but then you would just get off and there's things that might take you to the museum, but the museum was extra, whatever. So it was like you're paying for that and then later paying for more stuff. So I felt like this actually had the best bang for your buck because all this stuff was included within this tour, and it actually lasted a decent amount of time. So I thought we were getting our money's worth on it. Glad we did it. We got on, and one of the first nice things about it was that it was air conditioned. Yay for air conditioning, especially when it's so hot and muggy down there in Florida. The air conditioning was working quite nice. So you had an option. You could be inside the cabin. There was a good sized, decent cabin inside of it, and down below they had two glass bottom areas, whatever you want to call them, that you could look down. Where we were at, there's nothing to see at that moment, but that's where you would be looking down. But then you could also go outside, and you could also go upstairs outside. And it was encouraged that as you're heading out to be able to go outside and you can see around. Now, I honestly thought I was like, it's kind of hot, or maybe I'll just stick inside. And that's what we did. We stayed inside as we were heading out there. It's about a good 30 to 45 minutes that they go out, maybe about 6-7 miles off the shore or pier, wherever they're at. And it takes a little time to get out there. We were sitting inside, but at a certain point, I eventually was like, all right, I'm going to get up. And I went outside, and we went to like the front of the ship, and the front of the ship had two things that were more out in the water, I guess you could say, that you could walk down them and you could look, take pictures. We did all that. And actually, because we were sailing, and I don't know how fast we were going exactly, but we were sailing out there, we got a nice breeze that was coming off the water. So even though it was hot and muggy outside, sailing, it felt pretty good because you had that breeze. It was like, natural air condition. And I really enjoy being out there and being able to just kind of just look off the boat and be able to see the water. Got to see there was an island to the right of us. It looked like it was more of like a private island. That looked really nice. We actually passed our ship going up on the left-hand side. It was our left-hand side that we could see it. That was pretty cool. And we went out, and like I said, we went out probably a good 6 or 7 miles, and we eventually got out there. Pretty much at that point, everyone was inside, so they could see down the glass bottom. And we were looking at what was the third biggest reef in the world. Everyone knows that in Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, there's your biggest one in the world. This one was the third biggest. Wasn't quite sure what the second biggest was, but the captain, his name was Captain Dave, who I will give a big shout out to. He did an excellent job as captain. Excellent job. He knew a lot of stuff. He did a great job with the tour. He explained a lot of things. He had some humor. He wasn't like overly excited or charged up where you felt like it's in your face, but he wasn't so relaxed either that you thought that he was disinterested. He just had a nice, smooth flow to him, a nice way about him. Really enjoyed him. Got to give him a shout out. Anyways, he was saying that the second one is in Belize. I was like, okay, I've been to Belize before. I don't think I've seen it, but I've been there. So if I ever do go back to Belize on another cruise, I might see if I can go see that second barrier, the second biggest barrier in the reef in the world. So this was the third one. Still thought it was pretty nice to see it. And there was a ton of different fish and coral reefs down there, all kinds of living organisms that was amazing to be able to look at. I tried my best to take pictures of it as fish would come in and go. They were kind of quick with it. And so I would try to take a picture of it, but they would swim away before I could get it. So I did definitely try to take some pictures. I don't know if they came out super great. I did my best. When we were at the dock, it was just nothing there. As we were uh, sailing towards the reef, it was just because we were going so fast, it was just kind of green. But once we got there, we were able to see more clearly the reef and the fish and everything's down there. And like I said, Captain Dave, he knew a lot about the different types of fish, um, and he could point them out and have some scientific knowledge about them, which was really nice. And one of the things he said, I got a kick out of this. He said something to the effect of, "How do you know if sharks are in the water?" He's like, "Well, there's an easy test to do it. You stick your finger in the water, squish it around a little bit, bring it back up, lick it. If it tastes salty, there are sharks in the water." So, of course, obviously, any type of salt water that you're around, there's going to be some kind of sharks in there. We didn't see any sharks. We did see a variety of different fish and coral reefs, as was mentioned, seaweed. And we got to see it, and they take you. You're there for a little while before you start heading back. I really enjoyed that. If you're a nature fan, you probably will like this. If you're a water fan, ocean fan, sea life fan, you would definitely like this as well. Like I said, I thought it was worth it. Um, and I tried, like I said, I tried my best to get pictures of these things. I think I got maybe some, but then others it was by the time I got it, they were already gone. But definitely worth going to see. I'm glad that we did that as an excursion. I surprised Selena with it. It was one of three surprises that I had for her on the ship. One was our balcony. She didn't know we were going to have a balcony. And then the night before, which was I guess the night we sailed, Sunday night, they gave us our tickets uh, on the ship for the excursion to be able to go out on it. So when she saw it, she was pretty excited. I was excited too. Um, really enjoyed it. And even despite the hot, muggy weather, it made it worth it, especially as you were sailing out there and even sailing back. I think by the time we started sailing back, though, we were a little bit tired. So I don't think I went out as much, if maybe even at all. Kind of just sat there and just kind of rested. You don't think that, being on a ship and just going out there and looking at things, you might get tired, but you do, especially since you had to walk there in the hot weather. The sun can drain you. And then when you're outside uh, for any length of time, the sun can drain you. We were a little bit tired. As we were coming back, I think, just kind of stayed inside and kind of just rested and looked out. You could still see plenty of things even from inside, which is really nice. Um, and then they also had what I really appreciated there. They did have snacks and pop there that you could purchase. I believe I believe pop was $2 and snacks were $1, or it was vice versa. Still pretty reasonable. You're either paying $1 or $2, three altogether if you want something to drink and something to munch on. But they also had a big uh, cooler or big jug of it's like those big Gatorade things you see at football games, right? They had one filled with ice water, and they had cups for it. And that was free. I really appreciated that. Being able to have access to nice ice cold water for free on this thing, especially when it was so hot. In addition to having air condition in the cabin, plus bathrooms. They had working bathrooms there. It just made for a comfortable ride there and back. So the entire thing was very comfortable. I felt I got to see a lot of nice scenery outside as well as in the water, being able to see the sea life. Really enjoyed it. And if that's the type of thing that you would enjoy too, I think you would definitely love it. Let me know, and we can see about getting you out there. When we got back after the boat ride was over, it lasted anywhere maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours, something like that. We got back still very warm, very muggy. We had some time before we were actually gonna, you know, set sail again. So Selena's first time there, decided to walk around a little bit. Didn't want to go back to the ship quite yet. She did want to go to CVS though and pick up some water. They could sell them inside the cabin, kind of like if you ever had a mini bar. You know how those things are always like more costly in hotels. So they had you know decent sized water bottles the cruise within the cruise ship that we could purchase. But she wanted to get them out here. Probably figure be a little cheaper, and they were. She wanted each one of us to have a nice big one for that day, as well as the rest of the ship, or the rest of the cruise, I should say. So we went to CVS to pick that up. I think we picked up maybe a couple other things from there, and continued walking around. Um, Bunch of stores, kind of, I guess you could say, typical tourist type of area. You're going to see a lot of stores. We walked down a ways. We did eventually see a pier with a lot of different boats within the marina there, and some stores that were right off of there. We walked around a little bit, walked inside, see what they had to offer. It also helped to be able to go in there and kind of cool off a little bit too, as quite a few of them had air conditioning on. That's always quite helpful. In fact, even on the way back towards the ship, when we figured, okay, I think we've seen what we need to see, we'll start heading back. We were, a decent ways away. We could see the ship in the distance though, which was nice because that gave us a heading. Well, all right, we'll go that way. We'll know we'll eventually hit it. And as we're doing it, again, super hot. So we duck into this one place, which seemed like a very nice place. They had, I don't know, like lotions and aloes and things like that. Seemed like a very nice place. We ducked in there to kind of cool off. Only ones in the store, which kind of makes you feel a little awkward with that, because we're not in there to buy anything. We're just in there to just cool off for a little bit. And then the lady comes out. She was very nice. Started talking, and she was a little stressed, a little anxious. She just found out that her rent was going up. I think if I remember correctly, she said it was going up from like 2,800 to 3,200. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a one bedroom apartment too. Her and her fiance were discussing it before we came in. And I'm like, wow. I mean, the cost of living down there is insane. I guess for not having to deal with snow all year round and having a beautiful scenery and beach all around you, you pay a high premium for that type of area to live around. I live in Detroit. This isn't exactly a tourist destination, although we have nice things to see. Feel free to come on up. I'll help you with that too. But this isn't exactly, paradise up here compared to some other places that people want to go for when they go on vacation. Those are more tourist areas. So cost of living up here definitely is not as high as down there. And I'm thinking, we live in a two-bedroom townhome, 1.5 bath with a basement, and we're paying a fraction of that cost. So, hey, more power to the people that live in beautiful Key West, Florida. Um, if you're able to make it work, more power to you. I was talking with Captain Dave, who again I'll shout out, excellent job what he did in his job. He was originally from like Maryland area. Him and his wife had moved down there. He got his captain's license and got into doing that. Thought he did a great job. Seems like he's doing that was a good move for him, And hey, don't have to worry about snow anymore when you're down there. So good for him. One of the things I did notice that was peppered throughout the area. Of course, you're going to see souvenir stores. I did see there was bars, cigar stores. We're not smokers and we're not heavy drinkers. We're not drinkers hardly at all, actually. So going into those places don't really, appeal to us. But if you are, you'll probably love it down there. One of the things that I think about now that it was kind of a missed opportunity for me, anyways, because I love sweets, but there was also a lot of different places where you could get either ice cream or key lime pie. And key lime pie isn't my top choice when it comes to a pie. I don't hate it, but it's not my top choice. But I didn't even think about it until later. We're in Key West, and there's key lime pie, and I'm all over the place. And I'm probably guessing they're probably related in some way, shape, or form, and that's why there's so many out there. And I was like, wow, I should have took advantage of it. Sort of like we were on Margaritaville at sea, and I never got a margarita. I was in Key West, Florida, and I never got key lime pie. Oh well, missed opportunity. If you happen to go, maybe take a bite for me and enjoy it. Something that I failed to do when I was there. Let's see here. So yeah, we started heading back, and there was a lot of souvenir places too. We looked in some of them, but I'm really not a souvenir type of guy. Uh, I used to be maybe a long time ago. I think it's kind of nice looking through it, but just not really one to um, get stuff for myself. And I don't need keychains. I don't need T-shirts or anything like that. I'm good, but I don't mind looking through them. Anyways, and so Key West was nice, very beautiful. I'm glad we did get to go on that. And then when we got back on the ship, still hadn't wasn't time to sail away quite yet, but we were back in time. We needed to be back at a certain time, and whatever it was, we did. We walked back. I know they had some museums there that I'm sure if we had more time, maybe Selena would have liked to have gone to museums. She's into museums. They're not always my biggest thing, but I don't hate them. She's kind of softened me on them. Um, and then some other stores. But yeah, by the time we got back, I think we were really tired. The heat drained us, and it was a long enough day walking there, doing the excursion, walking back. But glad I did it. Glad I surprised her with it. So we left on there. The next stop that we went to was Cozumel, Mexico. And it wasn't that long ago that we went to Cozumel when we were on our MSC cruise back in February 2024. And I even talked about that in a different podcast. So I'm not going to talk at length about Cozumel because a lot of it was brought up. It was a very similar experience, but in the same time, a little bit of a different experience. And I will talk about it some. So Cozumel actually has different ports for the ships. The one that we went back in February was a different port that we went on that we ended up docking at on this cruise, and which kind of was a little bit of a bummer. And I'll explain a little. I'll share a little story with you. I say it this way: the last time that we went there, just when walking around looking at the different stores, different shops, I believe we went into maybe it was like a pharmacy type of thing, and they had a little travel size um, thing called, I believe it's called Gorilla Snot. It is a hair gel. It's a company, I believe that's the company's name. Gorilla Snot. Is it Gorilla Snot? Monkey Snot? Monkey Spit? Something like that. I believe it's Gorilla Snot. I always, whether it's Gorilla or Monkey or Snot or Spit, I always get it confused, but I think it's Gorilla Snot. And you'll see a cartoon gorilla on there, whatever. They've got a few different brands. I've used that before in the past, and it actually does work pretty well because I kind of spike my hair up here a little bit in the front. I don't do much anything else. It's just I kind of spike it up here a little bit in the front. Um, and the travel size hair gel that I have, that I take with me, that I get from Walmart, um, is not very strong. So I'll put it on after I, take a shower or whatever. But not long later, it's kind of like flattening out. It's not holding the spike here up in the front. It's very weak, and I don't care for that. So, but it's the only travel size one that I have. Now I could take an actual big one, but it wouldn't go inside like I usually have my toiletries in my carry-on bag. I like to have it with me just in case something happens. So I like to have it within my carry-on bag and with me at all times. So when I go through the airport, the big regular size one can't go in there. It's too many ounces. I need to get the travel size to be able to have it. And the only travel size one that I have at Walmart is the one that they have. Doesn't hold the thing. So months ago when we went there and I saw the travel size monkey gorilla snot one, I didn't even think about it till later. Like I should have got that because that does work. That does keep the spike on my hair lasting for a longer time. I should have got it, but I didn't. I was kind of kicking myself. Well, when we ended up booking this cruise, when I ended up booking this cruise, or at least when I was looking at it, I didn't book it right away, but eventually did. It was fairly somewhat, maybe more last minute, maybe in the week and a half, 2 weeks before we left. That's when I booked it. Um, I saw that Cozumel was one of the stops, and I thought about it like, well, if we go back to Cozumel, let me go back to that pharmacy, that store, and see if they have it. And if I do, grab them. Great, because I'm guessing they can't be too expensive. Okay, so we get to Cozumel, right? Our dock there, and I'm looking out, and I remember what it looked like before because we looked out, and there was a two-story thing um, that you went up, and there was I believe there was like a Senor Frogs or something. I remembered what it looked like. Wasn't seeing that. And I'm like looking, like, no, this doesn't look familiar. Eventually, come to find out, that's a different port. They have different piers, different ports, whatever you want to call them. And we weren't at the same one. Now, this one that we were at had a Margaritaville restaurant there. So I'm guessing it's only fitting that you're going to park Margaritaville at sea by Margaritaville. That makes sense. Okay, we're not at the same one, we're at a different one. I'll look around, see what they have. And they did have a variety of stores there and a variety of pharmacies. I'm looking around, looking around, looking around. I cannot find it at all. No one has it. Not a single person. And I will say this, compared to the last time we went in February, the vendors there, the people that worked there, those stores were hyper aggressive when it came to trying to sell you things. I mean, everyone was, hey, come in here, taste my tequila, try the cigar, come here, have this, buy that. I'm like, no, no, we're good. And then 2 seconds later, when you pass that store, someone else is trying to drag you into their store, and then it's going through a gauntlet of just people, come in here, come in here, come in here. And I get it. They got to make a sale. They're salesmen. That's how they're going to make money. They have to be that way. I I will say that when we went before, it wasn't that aggressive. Other stops that we've gone in other countries have been, and they've kind of been notorious for it. Cozumel to me was never a place where I felt like I had to go through a gauntlet of sales pitches every 4 seconds. But this time it was. That was a little bit of a thing that was kind of annoying, a little bit. Um, but they didn't give you attitude when you said no. So I appreciated that. You said no, no, thank you. They were like, okay, they left you alone. They didn't hound you too much. Some were a little bit more persistent, but it wasn't like they got upset with you or mad or anything. So I was at least glad about that. Anyways, when we get off the ship, there was like an enclosed, encircled area full of shops. You could get excursions there. Um, we walked all around that area and again, found nothing. It was almost like a little bit of a circle maze. I was walking around. Next thing I know, I'm back at the ship. I'm like, wait, how did we get here? And she's like, well, yeah, Celine was with me. We walked around. I was like, oh, okay. But anyways, we eventually did leave that area and get out into, I guess, the city. I don't know whatever was there. Walked across and saw some people that we recognized and was able to talk with them a little bit, kind of explain what I was looking for. They gave me a few suggestions as to where to look, down that way, down the other way. Okay, cool. Walked down one way, nothing. Kept going in different pharmacies, different areas. Nobody had it. And then eventually went back the other way. Same thing, and a barrage of people, trying to get you to rent a motorcycle, rent a dune buggy, or whatever. No, no, we're good, thank you. But I did notice though, once I was saying, okay, yeah, come on in here, come on in here. Okay, sure, yeah. What do you? I'm looking for monkey snot hair gel. And I just, no, sorry, we don't have it. Okay, and then thank you. I'll leave. That kind of helped ease that a little bit, I guess. Um, and then some did make a suggestion, which I appreciated. They, even though they weren't getting the business, they would recommend someone else that might have it. Up and down we go, couldn't find it, but we tried. Anyways, the people that we talked to, though, they were willing to take us to the other port, a couple miles away, and be able to drop us off there, and I could be able to get it there. really appreciate that they were willing to do that. That was extremely nice of them. The reason I didn't do it though was because they could only drop us off. They couldn't take us back, which is understandable. I mean, even taking us there would be a nice gesture. But then to come back, it was either one or two ways. One, we pay for a taxi and come back that way, or two, we walk a couple miles back. I didn't feel like paying extra because one of the reasons I'm doing this is to be able to save money on these little things. So that would just add to it. And also, uh, on the ship, I noticed in their gift shop when they where they have toiletries, they had another hair gel that I do use at home. It's a different version of it, but it's the same company. Obviously, more than I want to spend because it's their gift shop, but they at least had it. Uh, so that money that I could, that whatever I go there, I could take the gamble and go in to see if they have it. They may not have it, and I would have to pay the money to come back anyway. Or they might have it and they could still have a higher price, and I'm still paying the high money. So that was all going through my mind, trying to calculate the cost of all of it, I guess you could say. So I ended up not going. And then, or the other way was just to walk back. I would actually be okay walking back. I don't mind. I could walk a couple miles. I'm all right with it. I can walk. But Selena, as it was already having a difficult time from the sun back in Key West. When we got back from Key West, her face was red. She was not feeling good. She had to lay down. We even ate dinner later on that night because she wasn't, the sun really did a number on her. And I didn't want her going through that again. Even though I think it wasn't as bad as Key West when it came to it, it still was warm and muggy. So even though I could walk the 2 miles, I didn't want her to walk the 2 miles. And I didn't feel like paying for the cab to come back. Just, so if I'm going there as a gamble, had we docked there and it was right there, perfect. Fortunately, we weren't docked there. We were at the other port. Um, but at the other port, we did get to dock next to the Icon of the Seas, which is one of Royal Caribbean's newest and biggest ships. I think they have had since then a maiden voyage of the Utopia of the Seas that's going on now or something. um, but Icon is a magnificent ship, something that I know I would love to go on one day. I don't know if I'll ever get that chance to or not. I would love to go on it one day, but I did get to see it in person. I got to see it with my own eyes, and let me tell you, this thing is gorgeous. And this isn't even a podcast to advertise Icon of the Sea or my experience with Icon of the Seas. I've never been on Icon of the Seas. I would like to one day. It would be very nice. This isn't a podcast for that, but yet I'm still gonna praise it because it was part of my experience in Cozumel. We were docked right next to it. It dwarfed our ship. Um, and they had like a big water park in there and everything. And so once after we got back on the ship, once we were done with Cozumel, and I was racking my brain. Should I have gone? Should I did it? I was kicking myself. Is this going to work? Yeah, whatever. We actually, by the time we got back to the ship, we didn't go on right away because I'm sitting there just sitting thinking, should I have done it? Should I do it? Back and forth. Anyways, we eventually made the decision. All right, we're done. We go back on the ship, and we see Icon there. We're walking by it, and we get to get on the ship. So we get on deck, and some of the workers are on deck. I was kind of joking with them a little bit. I pull them aside. Hey, come here for a second. Hey, how do I get up? How do I get to that? And I'd point to Icon of the Seas and their big water park that they had. How do I get to that? And they look and just start laughing. Like, what do you have to go over? I guess swing over like a pirate. Yeah, from the outside it looks like a beautiful ship. I remember because we had a balcony. As soon as I opened our curtain, I saw right on the other side of the pier, right next to us, was the Icon of ship. I'm like, oh, this thing is huge. They had some big windows, kind of reminded me of being at like a basketball arena. Sometimes I've gone to basketball arenas. They have these huge windows, to go in. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And that was just a small part of it on the side of their ship. What that part is, I don't know. Maybe one day if I ever get to go on it, I'll get to see what that part is. Anyway, so that was gorgeous. That was a little bit of a highlight of going to Mexico, aside from seeing those friends that we got to meet, and then later on, even two other friends too. That was definitely nice as well. So love meeting them and getting to visit with them a bit. Um, Cozumel uh, is a nice island to visit, that's for sure. Despite maybe the aggressive sales thing, you're going to get that at other areas too. It is still very nice to be able to visit for a day. Oh, I should mention this. Originally, Besides for the hair gel thing, which I'll finish that story in a bit, um, I did surprise Selena with an excursion for Cozumel as well. I ended up, that was going to be the third surprise for her. I ended up getting us a chocolate, honey, and tequila tasting excursion. What everything was involved in it, I don't remember, besides the tasting itself. I was pretty excited about it. I like chocolate. I like honey. Tequila, I'm like okay with, but I would taste it. I guess if it's part of the sample, whatever else they had on the excursion. And so when I surprised her with that, the tickets for it came the night before in our cabin. She was excited about it too, but not even like 10 minutes after I think when we got into our room and we saw the tickets there, we got a phone call, and it was the shore excursions desk saying that for that excursion, they needed a minimum of 15 people to do it, and they only had four. So they had to cancel the excursion. Like, oh, really? And as an alternative, they were like, well, we had this other tasting excursion and this other one that had the Mayan ruins on it. We've seen the Mayan ruins before, and it's nice. And if I saw it again, I mean, I wouldn't be sad about that. But I didn't have it in front of me to see exactly what it was. And they didn't exactly offer to just do even exchange. It was like you would have to pay extra to do these excursions because they cost more. They may have given like a little discount on it, but for for something that wasn't my fault that you're canceling, I felt like I shouldn't have to pay the difference. You should be able to be willing to give that to us even exchange. Um, they didn't, so whatever. So we were just like, well, can we just get our money back? And they just accredited the money onto our account. It is what it is, and that's why instead of doing that excursion, I did this mad, you know, goose egg chase for this hair gel that I never got to find. Oh well, that's okay. Um, but I decided to buy that hair gel at the gift shop and try it out. Uh, it's not monkey, it's not gorilla snot. It's another one. Got to be glue, or it might just be got to be GOT, and then like a two and a B. Can't remember if glue is part of it or not, but got to be. The one I have is kind of like is a black one. Um, the one that they had on there was a yellow one. So again, it was a different consistency, I guess you could say, when I tried it, but it still had the same long lasting hold to it. It was still very strong, and so I appreciated that. So I bought it that night, tried it out. I figured if I buy one, okay, fine. But if I buy it and I like it, then I'll go back and actually grab a couple more, and I did. So altogether, I bought three of them, and it's not like I'm on the road. I'm not a flight attendant anymore, so I'm not out of the house every night or 3-4 nights out of the week. Yeah, our vacations are scattered throughout, or our overnight trips, maybe to a ball game or something, are kind of scattered about. So three bottles should hold me for a while. If or ever I come across Cozumel again where I could buy the monkey. And in fact, actually got to be uh, the monkey stuff can be very messy. When I first was using it, I didn't like the stuff until I learned how to kind of do it where it wasn't as messy. Because if you open it up, I mean, it's like slimy all over the place unless you do it correctly. uh, but the other one that I use now currently that I've also found on the ship is not messy at all. And I don't need a ton. I put a little dab on my finger, put it up, and I'm good to go. Very easy maintenance hairstyle that I have here, which I like. So I did buy three of those. That was kind of my um, finish to that story, the hair gel story. That's why I wanted to go to Cozumel. Well, I mean, I'm glad we got to go to Key West because Selena had never been there. It had been a long time since I had went. Had a fun time the first time. Glad I got to go. And then Cozumel had been there and even more recently, but I figured I'll go there, see if I can find the hair gel. Didn't work out, but still enjoyed it. And altogether, two nice stops. Again, if either one of these places is something that you would like to try on a cruise or not a cruise, or just to go there, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Again, you can reach out to me. My email is j.paradise@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me through Instagram or Facebook at Jay's Paradise Travel. There's no apostrophe, just Jays. Try to make it simple. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can reach out to me either one of those ways. So definitely appreciate you listening today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. Um, Maybe learned something from it. Hope you did. Uh, Again, as always, please feel free to share this with others. Uh, please subscribe to the channel and please like it, rate it, all that good stuff that podcasters need in order to keep their podcast going. If you see a poll question at the end, please feel free to answer it. Those are always fun. Like to hear what you have to say about things. So, anyways, once again, thank you so much for listening, and look forward to talking with you again another time. Take care. Bye bye.